COVID is a new experience for the general population. Flu epidemics are something we read about in the history books. At the age of 94, Jimmy Holmes lived through some of this history, and his experiences can enlighten our perceptions of today's circumstances. The pandemic is something that crept up into the ordinary lives of us all and affected us more deeply than we envisioned.
I didn't feel much about it. I just was careful about things. In fact, didn't get very careful until that thought came to me when I got the mail out of my mailbox about how easily I was learning that the virus is transmitted. Here at my daughter's house, I don't even get outside to go to get anything I want. If she brings me something that is purchased from a store somewhere, I wash my hands after I get it. And if it has a wrapper on it, I'll get that wrapper off of it and then wash my hands. I've had some occasions during my life when we had people quarantined for various things, but nothing, of course, on this level at all.
Holmes can reflect back on the early 1900s.
World War I was about 7 years before me, or 8 years, and their flu epidemic was something people talked about for all my life.
The first big public health scares in his life came early on.
If a person in a home down the street from us, which there were 2 or 3 of them in my block, had scarlet fever, they had a sign on the door, quarantined, scarlet fever, stay away. And that scared the life out of me. I'd make a big circle past those houses. After I was in school, I would guess probably in the 3rd grade, I got the measles. And I didn't know the measles were all that bad, but I found out, well, I cannot go outside the house. Well, and I can't even have the blinds open on my bedroom window, because too much light is bad for you if you have the measles. So I was restricted to my bedroom with the curtains drawn. When I was in the service in Italy, I was in a replacement depot. We weren't anywhere near battles, but we were in this huge place of tents, soldiers waiting to be assigned to somewhere in battle. And they kept us with busy work, and among other things, we did a lot of walks or marches or whatever you want to call them. And we would go, say, 100 feet away from wooded areas that would have signs warning malaria. And that's the first time I learned what malaria was. And some of the guys got a small degree of malaria. In fact, when I was later in the hospital, there were some of them in there that had malaria, and I found out what that is, and it's something you don't want.
Malaria is spread through the bites of infected mosquitoes. It often comes with a high fever and shaking chills. According to Mayo Clinic, about 210 million people are infected each year. COVID threatens us not just through issues of physical health, but also through economic pressures. Will this be another Great Depression? Jimmy remembers the first.
we didn't think anything about having holes in the knees of our trousers. Everybody had them. And one of my friends in grade school not only had holes in the knees of his trousers, he was always barefooted. And he was the only kid that was always barefooted. And didn't think too much about it. Kind of felt sorry for him because he couldn't have shoes. The rest of us had holes in our shoes, and we'd get a piece of cardboard and put it inside our shoes to cover it up for a half a day before it gets worn off. I'm afraid you're going to learn the hard way what that was like. And whether you're rich or poor, you're going to be poor. There are a lot of things our government's able to do that will take a lot of the sting off of it, but they can't solve all our problems. There will be hardships, I'm convinced of that. Of course, I'm one of those pessimists from the Deep Depression back there, and there's no way for us survivors of that to describe it, for people to understand it nowadays, because we've had such a wonderful economy. In my own business that I owned, it was a struggle to make things meet when we would have those short, depressive years, and I felt like they were worse than they were.
As for what we can do to help, Jimmy reflects on his mother's initiative to help the poor neighbors on their street during the Great Depression.
Mother would, any time there was anything significant left over, and in fact, she would put stuff with it and carry it down to their house. I think we should be watching for the hardships that our neighbors are having. And you don't ask, is there anything I can do for you? Figure out some little something you can do. It doesn't take much.